Can y'all hear the geese? They're right over there. Do a pan, Stacy. All right, I am standing in front of the Spring City School, which means, yes, you guessed it, I'm in Spring City, Utah, Sanpete County. This is actually our last city in this county, and then we got to move on to a different one, and also our smallest one with a population of 993. Small town. Spring City was founded, just like our last town, in 1852, and guess what? Was also abandoned 1 year later due to, can you all guess? If you watched last week's video, I'm sure you've got an idea. The Black Hawk War. It was reestablished in, ironically, also 1859. A lot in common with Mount Pleasant, which is like 6 miles away. In the mid 1860s, it was largely settled by Danish people due to church leadership encouraging Danish people to settle here. So because of that, the north side of town was actually called for a little while by locals as Little Copenhagen or Little Denmark. After World War II, the town actually started to decrease in population quite a bit and was just kind of deteriorating. But then in the 1970s, due to some restoration projects, the town started to grow again and became what is now actually a little bit more of an artist community. While still largely a farming community, there's quite an artist community build up here, especially on Main Street, that you're going to see, and it's continuing to grow that way and has become more known in the area as a town for art. It's actually starting to even get a little bit of touristy because of it. Other things you should know: in 2010, Forbes magazine rated Spring City as one of the country's prettiest cities in the US, so it is a very pretty city. It is one of only 2 cities actually listed, where the whole city is listed in the National Registry of Historic Places. The other one being Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia. So only the second city. The other one we've all heard about in history. I didn't learn about Spring City in my history, and I live in Utah. So number 2. With that, I would say come run with us on this wonderful spring day. Can you tell how wonderful the weather is? But I'm gonna run this tomorrow because it's supposed to be warmer, and we'll explain why. I'm combining runs, but we're doing the intro now in the snow. So when the weather changes, it didn't get nicer. Well, it did. Hopefully a day later, or tomorrow might be crap too. Wait to find out. Let's go run Spring City. We start our tour in front of the Spring City Public School, which was built in 1899 using locally fired bricks and boasted some of the finest craftsmanship of the time. The old Victorian school was designed by the same architect that designed the LDS Chapel. We'll get to that in a bit. This school was in use through the mid-1900s until it was replaced by a newer school. There is a Veterans Memorial just outside the school behind us that you can see as we start to run around this. Here is some scenery of me and Stacy running in the cold, trying to stay in zone 2, hence the very little arm movement. Or as I like to call it, me kind of doing like my... I don't know why I call it a walrus run. I call it a walrus run. But zone 2 running. Here's some of me and Stacy doing that. Go us. we are looking at the Relief Society Greenery. The female Relief Society of Springtown. Aren't all Relief Societies female? For those that are not part of the LDS Church, Relief Society is like the opposite of the men's gathering. It's the women's gathering, at least from my knowledge. I've never been part of the Relief Society, so I could be completely wrong here. Stacy will put an edit, I'm sure, if I am. But anyways, okay. Women's organization of the LDS Church was responsible for building this 2-level oolitic limestone structure. It was constructed on the land belonging to the Relief Society president, Mary Ann Hyde, wife of the LDS Church apostle, Orson Hyde. It may have been used jointly for grain storage and meetings of the society. Could you imagine that, having a meeting in there and you got like one corner full of grain while a bunch of women on the other side, planning the future or whatever happens in those, the real leaders of the country sometimes. Moving on, this is best remembered as Arthur Johnson's Meat Market. This 2-part commercial block with its false front was most likely built in 1905 by the original property owner, Alvin Allred. Arthur Johnson was the son of a local judge and United States Congressman Jacob Johnson. I remember him. Just kidding, I don't. Currently, it is an art studio and a shop, the Horseshoe Mountain Pottery. This is where the world-renowned potter, Joe Benion, makes the mugs for Das Cafe. He also makes a variety of other stunning handmade pieces that you can purchase and take home with you. Joe runs his business based on the honor code. The door is never locked and customers just leave money for their purchases in a lockbox. Well, that's really cool / risky, but kind of cool. I mean, once again, very small town, so probably gets away with it. I wonder if he has a website. Who knows? All right, this orange and greenhouse, that's what we have in the notes because that's what I told Stacy to label it as. The orange and greenhouse across from the chapel is the Osborne Inn and is a charming bed and breakfast housed in a historic Victorian brick home with shingled gables and corbelled arches. Once again, I don't know my architectural, structural fancy names. It's like same with like doctor stuff, I guess. The home was originally built in 1894 by William Osborne, a local merchant that owned a meat shop and a candy shop. In addition to feeding the prisoners at the Spring City Jail, his wife also ran a hotel out of his house. It continues to serve as an inn to this day. That's cool. They actually prepared the meals for the prisoners. Somebody has to do it, right? You don't really ever think about the logistics of that back in the day. Okay, this majestic looking castle thing is a church, built by the LDS. These are the types of LDS churches that I actually like when they were a lot more unique and, kind of castle-y looking, at least I think castle-y looking, a little more majestic, but now they're all kind of, look the same. I'm sure it's cheaper, which I'm all for being cheaper in a way, so saving money, but you know what I mean. This was the main Spring City LDS chapel and was built between 1897 and 1911, so it took it 14 years to build, if I'm mathing this right. I'm not running right now, so I think my math is slightly more accurate. The stately chapel was built using the same oolitic limestone from the nearby quarry as the LDS Manti Temple and City Hall. That quarry was quite heavily used. I wonder if it's still there. Oolitic limestone.
Yippee! 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 There! Yippee! Yippee!
here we are looking at Route 89 Grill. It's a cute cafe housed in an old 1930s drugstore and soda fountain. We actually ate here afterwards. Isaac Allred once owned and operated the drugstore, which later became the Horseshoe Grocery Store. The original building was constructed of lumber and was damaged after fire broke out at the neighboring Johnson Mercantile in 1929. The current brick building was subsequently constructed in 1930, where it is now operating as Route 89 Grill and Soda Fountain. The name reflects the pioneer heritage that can be found in this small town dotting US Route 89. Although this isn't actually part of Route 89, this is off the beaten path a little bit. Not far, but a little bit. Alright, here I am giving a thumbs up as I point to Das Cafe. That's because I highly recommend this place for you guys to eat at. It's a good meal. Das Cafe, this small brick building, was once home to the Baxter Confectionery, also known as John's Candy Store. From 1915 to 1973, they were in business a long time. It was a favorite spot among the Spring City children. Well, aren't all candy stores? The dining room extends into the neighboring building that once served as the Lyceum Theater, later known as Victory Hall. This building was also built in 1915 by John Baxter and featured silent films. In the late 1920s, it began showing the popular talkie films with recorded dialogue playing in sync with the moving pictures. That's kind of like what we're doing here, isn't it? This is a talkie. It later served as the LDS Recreational Center and even hosted a live radio show called Life Under the Horseshoe. It was written, directed, and performed by local residents of Spring City. The original stage can be seen in the dining room of Das Cafe. As we move past Das Cafe, this is the Sandstrom Pool and Dance Hall, which is located adjacent to the old theater, which is located adjacent to Das Cafe. This building was constructed in 1911 and featured a pool hall on the bottom floor with a dance hall on the second floor. It later served as a grocery store, a post office, a bicycle shop, and library. So once again, one of those buildings has kind of been it all. But this must have been a fun corner of town with the candy store, the theater, and then on the other side, the adult, pool hall. This was a happening spot, I'm guessing, back in the day. Would have been fun to see. Alright, here we are looking at the Daughters of the Utah Pioneer, or DUP Museum. And it's housed in the old schoolhouse and city hall just across the street from the Das Cafe. It was built in 1893 using limestone from the same quarry that was used to build the LDS Manti Temple. Alright, Spring City derives its name from a natural spring that flows underground from the mountains east of town to here. The Daughters of the Utah Pioneers have built a monument on Main Street where the water continuously flows. You can stop by and have a drink or fill up water bottles to take with you. Stacy tried the water. She said it was good. I did not. I should have. I have regrets. This is the Baxter Store, or later known as the Schofield Mercantile. This yellow-looking house, is this yellow or orange or brown? My slight color blindness tells me I don't know. This building was constructed with a stone and wood frame facade. I don't see the stone really in it. In 1895. If you notice on the side of the building below the writing, you'll see several metal X's attached to the building. These served as joints of sorts and was a common building technique used by the pioneers that originated in Nauvoo. Today the building houses an art gallery owned by Shirley Brisch. You can see there's a mural on the side. It looks like an old Western saloon building to me. Just saying, I could see this, besides the yellow, I could see this in a Western gunshot, somebody flying out the window. this is a barking dog. That reminds me of Lassie. Is Timmy stuck in the well again, Lassie? We don't have a well. We have a spring here. That's why it's called Spring City. Is Timmy stuck in the spring again? Doesn't have the same ring. Anyways, here's a dog for y'all. So this interesting house with a car parked under what looks like a awning structure used to be an old gas station. This is the Lorenzo Aiken House and Service Station. Sheep shearer and his wife, Mary Jane Nilsson Aiken, built this corner service station, the first one in town in 1924. Mary Jane and their small children ran the station from 1928 to 29 to keep Lorenzo on the Eastern State LDS mission, so to help fund his mission. The last person to run the station sold Shell and Wasatch gasoline. I'm assuming that's gasoline that's actually possibly refined or fracked or mined in the Wasatch. I don't know. My mining friends at me. I'd be curious to know more. The Aikens' 1908 pattern book brick house behind the station replaced a small log house that was there beforehand. Here we are looking at another Bishop storehouse. And this is not the same footage, we promise. They all look the same. You know, maybe one of these days we'll test you all and we'll take footage from another city and put it in there and see if you can tell by the landscape. Just kidding, we won't do that. That would be cheating, right? The purpose of the Bishop storehouse was to help those in the community who were in need. One of at least 5 in the state that are built using the same building plan. So Fountain Green, Manti, Fairview, Ephraim, and Spring City, all in Sanpete County, this county. Maybe this is the last one we'll see of that looks like this because of that, because this is the last city in Sanpete County. All right, with the 5K run done, we're gonna feature the little cafe here called Roots 89. It's a locally owned place. They make good burgers, shakes, etc. It's one of the few restaurants in the area. Other places we recommend though, if you're hanging out in Spring City or running our 5K, is about a block that way, that would be north, is another cafe called Das Cafe. Now they got some weird hours. Usually they're not open for dinner, only breakfast and lunch. And it's a German place, but it's authentic and really good too. So if you're here when that place is open, check it out. And if you're looking for more not German food, I guess, Roots 89. Let's go eat.
That's a borzoi! It's a borzoi! It's totally a borzoi! It's a borzoi! Hi, borzoi! You have a long nose. Hi. It was a borzoi!